Awesome. Pleasure to welcome to the podcast Michael Ippoliti, goalie from Syracuse, also Team Italy. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Coach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you for making this happen. I appreciate it. I'd love to hear the story of when you first jumped into goal. You remember that?
Yeah, growing up, I'm from Farmingdale, New York. Growing up on Long Island, lacrosse is obviously a hotbed for that area. I kind of played all sports growing up, but I started lacrosse in general. I was about 5 years old. I used to do the 4-on-4 program in the PAL near my house. I kind of played all the positions. I played attack, midi, defense. It wasn't really till the third grade where we were in a PAL lacrosse game versus Cold Spring Harbor, a very good team. And I remember I was in some heavy pads right up and down the field. It was a hot day. Halftime comes around, and our coach, he asked everyone. Our goalie wasn't feeling too well. He asked, "Hey, who wants to step in goal?" Everyone kind of hesitated, but for some reason in that moment, I had a feeling, and I never played it before, so I raised my hand, and next thing I know, they were putting me with a goalie stick, what I'd never used before, and these thigh pads and all these sorts of goalie gear, and I hopped in there, made a couple really nice saves against a good team, and from there, I kind of just took off with it. I remember, I was praying that I would get a goalie stick for that Easter, because I remember that game was in right before Easter, and I ended up getting a goalie stick, and from there I kept playing, and then it ultimately went to club lacrosse with Team Igloo, and just I kind of never looked back.
That's cool. That's cool. Some kids like when they start, in fact, most kids when they start, and that shot's coming at them, like what happens? Like, you get small, you kind of scrunch down. Was that you or you were you one of those weird ones where it's just like, I'm gonna attack this thing right out of the gate?
Yeah, so I mean, when I first got in, it was more of just you felt the adrenaline of the position, you're excited. I just felt like let me attack this ball, like it's a lacrosse ball coming at you. Just move your hands, like just try and stop the shot. I really didn't think much of it, but once I was immediately in there, I immediately fell in love with it after making a save or two and have all the parents screaming your name. It was an awesome feeling, and I never really experienced anything else like it in sports. So I think that's what ultimately drew it to me and made me have such a passion for the position and the sport.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a great feeling, right? You make that save and then, everyone's yelling your name and they come get the goalie at the end of the game. And that's what kind of makes all that hard work pay off and kind of makes it all worth it, huh? That
Exactly.
you mentioned playing a bunch of different positions. Do you think that ultimately helped you as a goalie?
I certainly do. I think, having the background of playing every position kind of gives you a better IQ and I don't know, just footwork and all these attributes to elevate and add to your game. I mean, even other sports. I used to play football, basketball, even baseball. I played baseball a lot growing up. My dad was actually my baseball coach. So, I played second base and a lot of hand-eye coordination there. I feel like positions in lacrosse and other sports translate to goalie, being able to have good
Yeah.
feet and hand eye and being able to be a leader and communicate, all these types of attributes, I think definitely contribute.
Yeah, that's cool that you mentioned baseball infielder because growing up, I mean, I grew up in California in the 90s and there wasn't really much lacrosse. So I played baseball growing up and I was an infielder as well. And I felt like once I got then to being a lacrosse goalie, that like footwork and that technique of taking a grounder was very much like the low save, right? Very, like that technique was just, for me, was just like that's where I pulled it from. And I imagine you did too.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah. Very cool. So then, going back to, your lacrosse goalie days, I imagine you get some pretty good coaching. I mean, Farmingdale's got some great coaches, great lacrosse programs. I mean, did you then get some coaching about, hey, here's actually how you stand and here's actually how you make the saves?
Yeah, so I mean, well, kind of after I had that first game, my parents knew this coach, a guy a guy who works with my father's son, Tom Michelson. He used to run a program called 365 Lax in Long Island. I don't think it's around anymore, but it was big at the time. And they just put me with a quick training session to see if I had what it takes to play goalie. He immediately put me in an hour training session doing drills with cards and ping pong balls and all these different goalie drills that I was like, I never really knew or have done before. And I had great hand-eye technique. And he told my parents after the session, I did really well. And he goes, yeah, he could do this. Like he's got good hand-eye, he's got good feet. Um, that he knows as a baseball player. He's like, I could tell with the baseball kind of background how it adds to the position. He's like, I think he could do this. Should continue to play the position. So, and especially in Farmingdale, we have a great history of coaches at every level. And ultimately, when I got with Igloo and I went up to Shore when I was in eighth grade, I've always been around really great coaching. That's the one thing else about Long Island. You have a great outlet to a bunch of different coaches who give you all sorts of information. So you almost have to be like a sponge and just take it all in and apply it to your game.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what an awesome opportunity that you could take advantage of that. One of the questions that I get from the youngsters is, I do these goalie summits, and there's like a lot of coaches that come, and like sometimes a coach might say something like different than what their coach says, right? And then maybe you had this experience where you're working with all these different coaches, and one coach kind of says this, and one coach kind of says something a little bit different. How do you handle that situation, or how do you recommend that the youngsters handle that?
So as a youngster, I would say, you're going to hear a lot of different things from different people. My mindset on that is to always have an open mind, always
Yeah.
be coachable and listen to their output of their insider or scoop on whatever it is that they're teaching you because all of that's important. And at the end of the day, we have a way of playing goalie, but everyone has their own version or style they play. So I think it's kind of taking in what everyone says and saying, hey, what am I good at? What do I want to use? What works well for me? And applying it to your game. I personally coach youth goalies and I say, listen, even when I'm training you or you're training with someone else, no matter who it is, listen to them, and try and apply whatever you learn to your game. So,
Yeah, that's what I say too. I mean, I think you gotta, they're the coach and they're looking out for you the best they can, and so give it an honest try. And at the end of the day, like if it's really not working for you, then that's when you got to have that conversation with the coach and be like, hey, explain your why, and even have them explain the why behind what they're coaching too, right? And kind of hear them out. And yeah, but yeah, at the end of the day, you got to have that conversation. Say, hey, if we're talking maybe wide base, you're like, hey, I like to play a little bit wider. I feel more athletic that way. Is it okay if I do that? Right? And just talk it out. Yeah. Very cool. How do you describe sort of your style of play? You mentioned, taking little bits and pieces and kind of combining it. How would you describe how you play out there?
so I would say I'm fundamental in a sense, but then at times I'm unorthodox in a way. I feel like I play off instinct. When it comes to my arc, I think, I play a low arc, but at times I like to play a high arc and come out and mess around with the shooters a little bit. I'm big on baiting. I'm big on using my stance to bait as well as my stick. At times, sometimes I'll just use my stance to bait. I like to bait high, low, and to sides of the cage. So, I am very situational. At certain times, I'll kind of just play the fundamental way and just keep my stance. But especially in practice, at Syracuse, when we're doing positional work and it's just guys shooting on me or just I'm back home getting shot on or after practice, I like to try new things and experiment, especially with the baiting. I mean, I bait a lot in practice, and it's a risk, but sometimes it's a risk you have to take, and it pays off.
Yeah. Talk to me about that baiting. Is that something that you coach for young kids or not yet?
So, I tell kids, I kind of coach them the straight up way. It kind of depends. The high school guys that I coach, I kind of tell them, a little bit of bait technique on how to bait and not bait too much to the point where you put yourself in a difficult position to recover.
Hmm.
More of just position baiting. Like if you have an on the run shot, right, and he's coming towards the middle, right, make sure we're taking baby steps. You don't want to be so quick to get over and then he's shooting and you're off balance, your feet in the air, like stay set, right, and then be ready to explode to the ball. I like to give, shooters when they're coming across the middle, a lot of that far side net. That way I know I could get there. It's situational for me though. I don't
Yeah.
always do it, just depends on the moment.
Yeah, yeah. And when you say like positional baiting, it's essentially like you're lining up and you know that you're giving up a little more one side of the cage so the shooter sees that. But you're not like when they shoot, you're not then guessing, right? And you're not like automatically going to that spot. It's just kind of like, I don't know, like I know he might shoot there, so like I'm gonna look to that spot, but if it's in another one, I'm still gonna make the save. Is that a good way to think about it?
That's a good way to think about it. That's correct. I would say it's anticipation, right? Being ready to anticipate that, okay, I'm giving up, right, that offside. I'm a righty. So if they're sweeping righty, I'm giving up that offside. They have a lot to shoot at there. I have to be ready to explode, but I have to be patient. And once that ball is released, no matter where it goes, just be ready for it. Because, shooters are smart, right? Some guys, when I'm in practice, they know I'm gonna bait. So they'll start to pull it back to that stick side or they'll start to pull it back to where they know I'm baiting them. So just these are little things that you could use in your game against someone maybe you don't always play against or someone you practice against. So it's anticipation, but also being patient to wait in there for the shot.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, I love your game outside of the crease too. I feel like that's a really strong part of your game. And in fact, I was watching the championship from the European Championships today. Well, first of all, you're the only goalie to score in the European Championships. That was pretty awesome. Anyway, I'm watching it. I'm like, here he goes again. Here he goes again. And then bam, they called a timeout, man. They called a timeout on you.
Yeah.
That's all right. But anyway, talk to me about, your how you think about your game outside of the crease.
So I think having to being able to play outside the cage is something that could elevate you as a goalie, and it's something where I feel I've added to my game, and I love what I do outside the cage, and it's important, right? You got to be able to make an essential ground ball play. You got to be able to clear the ball. Um, that's something I see at the youth level that I think needs to be taught more is your presence outside the cage, being able to be situational in the clear, know the clear well,
Hmm.
and know where your defensemen are going, or if we have a stretch guy, where they're going to be. So I think, especially diving for shots, I think my game outside the net is just me just trying to be involved as much and give my defense or my D middies, whoever it is, an outlet that they can use me for. Because you're that seventh man in the clear. You got an extra guy in the clear. You got to be able to be good with a stick. You got to be able to make passes on your right or left hand. You never know when you're going to need to use your offhand. You
Hmm.
never know when you're going to need to blow by someone with a move, a face dodge, or a roll. So I think that part of my game is something, I could always get better at, improve. But I think especially for the younger generation, if you could work on elevating that part, it just adds another layer to your game.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, especially if you're a shorter goalie. Like I'm only 5'8", and so like that was a huge part of my game, right? I mean, I'm not this big, tall Liam Enterman type dude taking up all that cage, and he's probably a better goalie than me. But I'll tell you what, I think I could beat him in a foot race, and so like I'm gonna use that as part of my game. Like be quick to pounce on that ground ball and sprint to the open space to help your team out. And it seems like it's a huge part of your game too.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Do you train that quickness or is that something that was just kind of natural for you?
I would say it's been trained a little bit. I would say the way I approach the clear is trained. We do a lot of clearing at Syracuse practice, and growing up on the island, we did a lot of clearing practice. But
Hmm.
in the off season, I do a lot of speed and agility work as well.
Oh.
So, and I've always just kind of I don't know been around. I like to, obviously it's good to walk it up in the European Championships. There was no clearing clock, so it's definitely an adjustment from playing in college when you have 20 seconds to clear the ball. But I like always advancing the ball and trying to make the quick outlet, the quick and smart pass is what I like to say. So
The quick and smart pass. Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of that comes from, that comfort with the stick, right? And so much of, I think making saves too is, and we're just catching bad passes. And so like, if you can have those stick skills that you get from wall ball and that you get from playing other positions, just totally will help your goalie game all around.
I agree.
Yeah. What sort of growing up, did you watch a lot of lacrosse? Like who are some of the goalies that you like to watch?
I've watched a lot of lacrosse growing up. I mean, just being at the college level was a dream come true for most goalies, but for me especially, I watched a lot of Kyle Bernlohr and,
Mm,
as I got older, Mikey Adler, and I loved Gittleman as well. I honestly watched a lot of goalies. Matt Lucas from my hometown. I kind of
that's
like
right.
took away from a lot of the different goalies, but what I kind of loved about guys like Adler, Bernlohr, Gittleman, they're not big guys. They're guys who have low stances, but they're quick on their hands, quick with their feet. As a young kid, I saw those guys and I'm like, I could do this. I'm just because I'm shorter doesn't mean I can't be a high level goalie like these guys. These guys are playing at the highest levels on national TV, and they're 5'8", they're 5'9", whatever height they are. They're killing it. So those guys kind of inspire me just on a point where I'm like, I could do this. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't because these guys are doing it.
Right. Well, that's great, and I'm sure a lot of youngsters are looking at you as their role model now, and that's awesome, right? And those are some of my favorites as well, especially Gittleman. I watched a lot of Adam Gittleman, but of course Bernlohr was the man, right? Bernlohr was the man. Um, so that's awesome. Do you know Rob Mulligan?
Of course,
Yeah,
I know Mr.
yeah,
Mulligan.
yeah,
He's great people. We talk he talks me through like the whole season. We're texting back and forth. He's from Farmingdale. He played at
yeah.
Syracuse as well. He was an
Right.
incredible goalie, but he's been an incredible contact, and I love always chatting with him about lacrosse life and all aspects.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I had him on the podcast, and you mentioned being from Farmingdale, and obviously the Syracuse thing, and so that came up. I did this event actually with Coach Dunn, and I said, "So who's the greatest Farmingdale goalie out of the program?" I thought he was going to say DeLuca, and he said Rob Mulligan. So, but you're up there. You're up there, my man. What's a favorite thing for you about being the lacrosse goalie? Maybe we touched on it already, but hit me with another thing.
Yeah, I mean, I love it all, but the ability of being a defensive leader for your team, the adrenaline, the moment that you get to be a part of. But I guess my favorite part is the impact you could have on your team. Um, you know, our position can change the game in a positive or a negative way, but the way we could bring momentum to a game and be an essential part of a team's success is incredible to me. And I think that's why I love it so much. When you're in there, it's kind of just, the shots are coming, you're gonna have to clear a ball, make a save, dive for a shot. Um, it's just everything. But I would say, the impact that we have is incredible, especially the face-off guys and the goalies. We could play a big part of the game at times.
Yeah. Well, in the 2025 quarterfinals, you did, my man. I posted the sort of the story on my Instagram, and it blew up. So I think people know what I'm talking about. But yeah, talk me through that whole play, that whole scenario, right from you see your starter Jimmy McCool, flags get thrown, kind of what's going through your head, and how were you able to succeed there?
Yes, so I saw the flag get thrown, and I'm just like, I start hearing them call my name, but I kind of already had a spring in my step. During the games, I like to keep myself ready, keep my legs loose on the sideline, just kick them up and down, just so I stay ready at all times. And I saw the goalie coach, Coach Aquaviva, kind of scream my name and give a little hand gesture. I started running down the sidelines, and it was right before halftime that he got the penalty. So
Right.
I hopped in really quick. John Mullen won the face-off, whistle blew, we went back in, and it was just like, all right, I'm gonna have to go in. I'm waiting, I'm ready to go. And just like in that whole halftime, I'm just like getting locked in, mentally preparing. Jimmy came up to me, he's like, "You got this, let's go." He was a great
Nice.
supporter to me. And all my teammates, Dylan Seguider, one of the LSMs, is like, "You're gonna make a stop. You're gonna get us a stop." Said right to me. I'm like, "Let's go." I was locked in. Um, we go back out there, onto Hofstra, and the third quarter starts. They come down with the ball, possession, defense, right? It's a man up play. They get two looks. I think they missed two, and then eventually Coulter Mackesy off the shot, save it. I look up to Billy Juan for the outlet. I may have rushed it a little bit, but we'll let that be decided between him or me. But I pass it to him. Ball, hits the floor. They get back on offense. We make another stop. Me and Jake Spallina get the chase out. Then we got to clear the ball, right? It's been I was only supposed to be in for 2 minutes and ended up being like four, which I was happy about. But still, we got to clear the ball, advance the ball up the field, hit my friend Caden Cole. He passes it to a midi. I get pumped up. I was fist pumping in the air, screaming at him.
Yeah.
I was screaming at Jake Spallina too, but yeah, I was just screaming. And then I got the nod to come back to the sidelines, and Jimmy gave me a big hug, and the crowd was, really pumped up, and it was a special sight to see, especially being from Long Island, playing all our high school championship. I've won championships at Hofstra. I've been to the quarterfinals there. I've been in that locker room many times before for high school games. So that whole experience happening at Hofstra, it was just surreal, and I had the chills. Honestly, I was just thankful I had that opportunity in that moment, and my teammates had my back, and I was happy I was able to have theirs.
What a special moment. Yeah, thanks for recapping that. That gave me chills going through that again. Yeah, Kark in the announcer in the on the air was like, that's the moment where you're like, you as a backup goalie kind of don't hear them yelling, like pretend not to hear them yelling, like, hey, come out, come out, come out. You're like, I got it, I got
Yeah.
it. That's awesome. Well, did you get the game ball?
I didn't, but I got a good shout out and broke it
Okay.
down in the huddle, so I
All
was
right.
happy.
All right. That's good. That works. I was going to ask about that passion because when I watch you play, that's one of the things that really sticks out. Like you guys cleared the ball and I mean, you were fist pumping, like chase a shot out. And it's just like, I could see that passion in your body language. And where do you think that comes from for you?
I think it just comes from maybe the way I was raised, grew up. My dad played sports. My whole family kind of are sports people. My cousin actually just got drafted by the Boston Bruins. James Higgins just went
Nice.
seventh overall in the draft. So we got a big sports family. But I just think it's competitive nature. I've always been a competitor, and it doesn't matter if I'm playing spike ball on a summer day in the backyard with my cousins, or I'm on a lacrosse field in the quarterfinals. Like I'm gonna show up and I'm going to control my attitude, my energy, and my effort. And I'm always going to try my best to give 100%, right? I control the controllables. I just think I have a very competitive drive. And when I get out there, I just love it so much. And I get very invested in the team, and trying to do our best to succeed as a whole.
That's great. That's great. So even if we're going head to head in spike ball, summer afternoon barbecue, you're gonna be giving it the fist pumps, huh?
Yeah, maybe a little less intense, but I'm still pretty competitive when it comes to that. So
Yeah. All right. Like a 9 instead of a 10,
like a
right?
nine instead of a
Yeah.
10.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go. That's awesome. Why Syracuse? Talk to me about your recruiting process and why you eventually chose that program.
Yeah, so my recruiting process was great. September 1st came around 2021. Was when, yeah, 2021 was when I committed to Syracuse. On the 9th, I committed. That whole summer was a great process. And I remember, before September 1st came, Coach Joe Spallina, who I'm close with and been training with the Spallinas for years before even I got to Syracuse, or Joey was on campus there. And he was telling me like Petromalo is going to give you a call, and Coach Rooney, my coach, who was my short coach, is like, yeah, Petromalo is going to give you a call. So I had a feeling they were going to give me a call for September 1st. So I spoke to Coach March, spoke to Petromala, loved the staff. Those two were awesome, especially Coach Petro. He loves the Italian guys. We were talking about pasta and all this stuff, and it was just a lot of funny stuff. But I think Syracuse really stood out to me when I visited, because of the team culture there. It was somewhere close to home. It's only 5 hours away, so my parents could come visit and watch games. It's very accessible to me, and such a rich history there, with the lacrosse background. It's a very special place to play. Obviously there's the dome, there's the teams in the '90s, there's the history.
Hmm.
There's a lot of Long Island guys which I loved, but for me it kind of crossed all three aspects. I was able to receive a great education, play for a great program, and have the chance to compete for a national championship, which to me, those three were, top of my list, and it kind of still fits the mold. And we're still trying to chase that championship, but I'm happy where I am, and it's been great so far.
Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
go. Um, what advice would you give to the youngsters kind of going through the recruiting process now, or maybe going to go through it in a couple of years. Any tips you'd share there?
So what I would say is number one, work ethic, right? It's not an easy position, and the recruitment process isn't easy, but I would say try and see as much rubber as possible.
Hmm.
Put yourself out there. Notice kind of what your bad habits are, what you need to work on. Notice what you're good at, right? And work towards improving it. I remember during my recruiting process, right before the year before that big summer, I was going down to Maryland on Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, training with Goalie Smith. And those guys kind of broke me out of my happy feet. Bad habit. It's a habit I had kind of all throughout eighth grade, seventh grade. And, I was still playing great, but it was one of those things where, I didn't have much patience. I was on my toes, and it was something that really helped me elevate my game. So kind of, trying to fix those bad habits. I would say communication. If you're loud and you're a leader, right, and you're someone the defense wants to play for, that's the way you can elevate yourself right there. The commanders of the field, the commanders of the defense are guys coaches want on their team, right?
Yeah.
Those are guys when they get to college, they don't have to, teach to kind of, control the defense and yell out slide packages and keep everyone in order.
Right.
And three, I would say make the most of your opportunity, right? It doesn't matter if you're at the main stage or biggest showcase with 100 plus coaches, or you're at a little tournament with only two coaches watching. Someone's always watching.
Mm.
You are what you do when no one's watching constantly. So I would say doesn't matter who's watching, right? Just always play hard,
Right.
play to the standard that you should. Strive to be consistent. A big reason why I think I was successful is I was consistent. I wasn't always perfect. I didn't always have a great game, but you got to strive to be consistent. And, you are what you do every day, right? So just keep trying your best to be consistent, work hard, and good things will come your way. I really feel there's a place for everyone. And if you love this game, you'll find a spot on a college field for sure.
Yeah, well said. Very well said. Yeah, it's interesting to me. I feel like many goalies try and like feel like they can turn it on when they need it, right? And it's just not the way it works. Like you said, like someone's always watching. And if you don't have that passion, when there's two people in the stands and you're like, oh well, when I go to this tournament, I will. Like it doesn't work that way. You got to always bring it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Um Very cool, very cool. Yeah. So then when you get to Syracuse, then would you say like, oh wait, sorry, before I get to that question, the happy feet that you worked that issue, because I know a lot of goalies struggle with that. What was there something specific that they did, or was it just kind of like just doing reps the right way, working with Goalie Smith that helped you overcome that?
I think it was a mixture of reps. I think it was a mixture of being cognizant of, right, what I'm doing wrong and then adjusting it from there. I remember I saw a video myself, I think Andrew showed me, of a shooter winding up, right? And they do this a lot and something I've added to my coaching as well. You kind of wind up, right? Pretend like you're going to shoot at the last second, you don't shoot. Sometimes you see
Mm,
goalies on their toes or not patient, like they're moving, right? So that
yeah.
was something that I noticed and I was like, all right, listen, you got to stop. You got to be patient, just settle in, wait. And then when the ball's released from the head of the stick, then you react. Like you're quick enough to do so. It's just one of those things where it's like a mental cue. Just take a deep breath, be on the balls of your feet, wait for it to be released, and then attack it. So it's just one of those things where in time and reps and being cognizant of it mentally, I broke it. So
That's
that was
cool.
really what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I don't even know if it's a drill, that move that you just said where like, you'll throw in a fake every once in a while. And I think back to this video that I made that was, well, I didn't do it. I had a videographer just kind of like shooting Duke's warm up with Coach Alex Reddy a couple years ago. And like he comes like basically like right in front of the camera and like throws this a fake shot, and the goalie was just like a statue, didn't even move. And that's what you got to be, right? Because the shot's not coming yet. So what would you be reacting to? But a lot of goalies are very jumpy, and you'll see that fake, and they'll move, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Okay, so then you get to Syracuse, and I'm always curious of like, how, if at all, do you think your goalie game changed?
I think, from when I got to Syracuse, I think I just had the ability to improve and grow. I think my game changed is where I'm not throwing as much crazy baits as I used to. I
Mm-hmm.
still do. I still like to mix it in at practice, but I try to be a little bit more reeled in, a little bit more fundamental. I think, my clearing was always good, but I think I've improved my IQ as a goalie, and I think
Mm.
I still can continue to improve as a goalie with my IQ. But I think freshman year, especially in the spring, being on the scout team, I had a great ability to make saves, and I was doing a great job on the scout team, giving the guys a look. I would say the clearing aspect, right? Because I always felt confident in the clear, but I would say this past fall, right? When you first get there and we're installing new clears or installing a certain type of stretch guy and where we have our pole runoff, I think just knowing and understanding where everyone is on the field, and the process of it can help you just be more confident in the clearing game. So I would say kind of just having the IQ to know where everyone's spots are in the clear and understand where our opening guy is going to be when you throw a ball to a certain spot.
Hmm. Love it. Last season, uh, or 2024, you played with Will. Yeah, Will Mark.
Yes, great guy. Love him.
I love that guy. Yeah, I worked with him and had him on the podcast. And yeah, I mean, talk to me about kind of playing with him. And obviously, like, big, tall dude, So I don't know, if there's much, in your guys' styles. He's got a very unique style, but was there something that you kind of like learned from him?
I learned a lot from Will. Will was a tremendous captain and leader, and I think as a goalie, especially when he was an older guy, he had a lot to give as one of those older guys. I mean, I was so impressed with Will how he would be this 6 foot tall guy and he would duck down and he would spring back up and he would take away the low shots with his body. And I just think Will had a great leadership ability, and his way of playing goalie was a little bit different from what I've seen past. And
Yeah.
we used to mess around with each other. Used to be like, Will used to be like, "If I wish I was your height, it helps with the low shots." I'm like, "Will, I wish I was your height. I wish I was 6 foot because then it helps me with the high ones." So
Yeah.
we'd always mess around, but he's a great goalie, and honestly, anyone who is being coached by him currently is so lucky because he has years of experience, and I learned a lot just by watching him and talking with him, and even just talking to him about life. So it
Yeah.
was great.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's a great dude as well. So that's cool. And then how about Jimmy? We're playing with Jimmy. Talk to me about, some things that maybe you've seen in his game that you like.
Yeah, so I love Jimmy's game. I mean, Jimmy's a great goalie to where, if you kind of watch how he plays, he's big, but he's also quick. And Will was that way too. But Jimmy makes a lot of great saves because he positions himself really well. He uses his body and he uses his stick. So I think that ability to be tall and quick kind of elevates his game, and he's great with his feet. You'll see he'll make some low saves with his feet. He'll kick them away. He has good stability and control of his feet, and putting it towards the ball when it's coming at him. And he's controlled in the clear too. He's calm in the clear,
Hmm.
um, and he's a great leader as well. So
Yeah.
getting to play with both of those guys. I mean, I really feel this way. We have one of the best goalie units in the country. This past year with Kyle Raleigh, Braden Ferguson, Jimmy, and then the year before was Will, Patrick Duffy, and all those guys. So I've been blessed to be with incredible goalies, but also incredible people who make practice every day a fun experience. And our positional goalie work is always a blast because we practice hard, but we have a great time while doing it. So
That's
it's
great.
really awesome.
What kind of things do you guys do in your positional goalie work?
Yes, so Coach Agaviva does a great job with us. He kind of tailors it to whatever he feels we need to work on. We'll always kind of incorporate some ladder work, footwork to get us going. We love
Hmm.
to do some hand eye. We'll do some ball toss. We'll do the ball drops drill. We do something that we created. Will and Pat Duffy actually kind of invented this game. It's called the state game. You may have seen it posted. It's almost like hot potato, right? You got to catch the ball and get rid of it quickly. But we'll say a state, so we'll go New York, New Jersey, Wisconsin. Like we'll name a state, and you gotta say it. And if you repeat the state or
Yeah.
you don't say a state or you mess up, you're out. So that's a game that's like you got to be quick on your feet, toss it, hot potato. So it's a little different, a little unorthodox, but it's a good game we play. And Coach Ock would get us doing some pipe to pipe drills. We'll throw in screens. We'll do turns. We'll get short sticks. We'll do dock drill off the wall. So he'll mix in a bunch of different things to kind of whatever he feels we need to work on. We'll go with the offense and shoot during that time as well. So a bunch of different things, but it's always some good work when we're down there.
Yeah, I did see a video of that state sort of hot potato with the state. That's a cool little twist, and you got to think, right? You got to think.
You got to think we're
Yeah.
starting to mix it in now. Now we're doing European countries,
Oh
we're doing
man.
foods,
Oh
so
man.
it's getting a little crazy, but
There you
it's good.
there you go. That's cool. And Coach Aquaviva, he's a goalie himself, yeah, or ex goalie.
Exactly. He played
Yeah,
goalie in college.
that's good. Yeah, so he kind of brings that experience and kind of knows what you guys are going through. Well, good luck this upcoming season. Yeah, I mean, you guys made a Final Four run last year, and it was super awesome to watch. And I mean, I bet even cooler to be a part of, huh? What was that experience like for you?
It was an incredible experience. I mean, growing up watching the Final Four, and it's something you dream of, and getting to that moment was, very incredible. Obviously, would have loved to get to Memorial Day weekend, but I'm grateful we had the opportunity to get there. But the goal is Memorial Day weekend, and hopefully being back there next year. So it was a great experience, but got to get back there. That's the goal.
All right, let's go. I wanted to talk about the European Championships, which just happened, what, like couple weeks ago?
Yeah, like
Um,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah. And you played with Team Italy, yeah. And so, I mean, talk to me about that experience. Like, did you know a bunch of guys on the team? Like, how did that? Have you been training with them? I'd love to hear talk about that.
Mhm. So I tried out back in August of 2024 for Team Italy. It's something I've always wanted to do, being able to represent my nationality, heritage, and culture. So I tried out for the team, make it. I'm currently pursuing my Italian citizenship. I have the qualifications to do so. So I'm pursuing that actively as we speak. But I got a call during the season, actually, right in April, right before the ACC championship, from the coach Brian Vona, asked me to be a part of the team, and he was like, "Michael, I want you to be a part of this. It's a really special thing we get to do, international lacrosse." And I was immediately in. I was like, "Let's go! Sign me
Yeah.
up! I can't wait. This is like a dream come true for me. I've always wanted to do it and get to represent something that's bigger than yourself and a country." Was extremely special. And going into it, I knew some guys, Matteo Corsi, who played at Brown, Ryan Bell, who's a Providence guy, the
Hmm.
Piatelli brothers, who are excellent. John plays in the NLL. So I knew some guys going into it. And, I got to meet some of the Italian guys for the first time. And we had more Italian guys from that country than we did Italian Americans. So
That's
it was
cool.
definitely, we played it in an honorable way. And I mean, the tournament was incredible. You singing the national anthem, seeing all the countries represented from Europe was just a thing of beauty. And you really see how much it means to everyone there, and especially being part of the team, and how much we clicked and really developed and grew when we were in Poland together was an incredible experience. And we had a semifinal game versus Ireland, which was a huge win against a team that was a very talented Ireland team. And that game, we're singing the national anthem after the game. Everyone's hugging each other, and we get to the championship. We lost by a goal, but it didn't matter. Just getting to that point was special. We were all very competitive and upset we lost, but we'll never forget the moments spent with each other. I'm so grateful for the players, the staff,
Hmm.
and the coaches. I mean, it was an experience of a lifetime, and we qualified for Japan. So the goal is hopefully we get to the Olympics in 2028, but we gotta represent well at the 2027 World Olympics in Tokyo. So
Let's go.
let's do it.
Yeah. Well, congrats on that. And it sounds like an amazing experience. How do what are the tips you can share for the goalies when you get into that new environment with with a new team, right? Maybe you knew some of the guys, but not everybody. And that can be, an interesting scenario when you as the goalie, like you want to be the leader. But yet, like, I don't know anybody. And so how, what tips can you share there?
I would say be authentic, be yourself, right? Go up to people, get out of your comfort zone, shake people's hands. Be like, just be respectful and just be yourself. And I think it usually works itself out. And as far as leadership goes, right? I just played how I normally play, and just added that leadership aspect and try to teach people the best I could. And if there was an advice piece of advice I could give to a teammate, I would give it to him. I say, hey, listen, I'm giving you a piece of advice, but if there's anything I need to work on, you could tell it to me too. So it's having that
Mm,
open communication and
yeah.
just saying, hey, we're all in this together. We're a team. We're a family. We're all trying to succeed. We have one common goal, and as days go by and we're playing card games together at night, or we're on the field,
Yeah.
or we're scouting out the other team, it doesn't matter because we all have the same goal. And, as you get into the game and another game, you start to build that trust and you start to take more of a leadership role and talk more. But I think it's just being authentic, being respectful. And if you're not a talkative person, get out of your comfort zone. Go meet the person from another country who you haven't talked to before compared to the guy you know, right? Maybe get lunch with someone who you don't know that well, but want to get to know better, right? So I think it's getting to know people and getting out of your comfort zone.
Oh, good. I was just no, I was just curious if you guys do you guys ever talk in Italian or is it mostly English?
So, I mean, we did, but the Italian guys, there were because some of the Americans didn't speak English that well,
Or some of
so
the
they would speak
Italians didn't
English.
sp didn't speak English. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but most of the Italians actually speak English and they speak it pretty well. So they would, be speaking in English, but we had certain words. Our plays were all Italian, and when we go palla palla for the ball, that's how you say ball in Italian.
Okay.
But it was a lot of Italian talk. We were playing Scopa, which is a card game in Italian. So um,
Scopa.
yeah, it's an
Okay.
Italian card game, and
Yeah.
I learned it over there. And we communicated in Italian and English, so it was a mix. And some of the guys were still learning. And I always growing up, my mom's first language was Italian,
Yeah.
so and my mom's whole family speaks it. And I in high school I learned Italian too, so I was talking to them, and where we were exchanging music and songs, and so it was a special experience.
That's cool. That's cool. I just watched a championship game today. I did a save edit. That'll be coming out pretty soon, by the way. And one of the things that I noticed that you do, and you kind of did it in that Syracuse video too, and someone shot wide, and like you instantly kind of turned to your teammate, to your defenseman, and kind of like had a message. And the same thing kind of happened in the Italy championship game where you gave up a goal and then instantly kind of like had a message for that guy. What do you know what I'm talking about? And like what would you be saying there?
The in the European Championships, I kind of pushed my defensemen, and at times I pushed them. Sometimes I was pushing them to be better. Sometimes I would not let them hear it, but I would tell them, "Hey, this is where we need to be." And sometimes I would get juiced up because they made a huge play. So my thing is just communication and just letting them know, "Hey, this is where you're supposed to be." At the end of the day, I'm a goalie. I stand in the net. Their job is extremely hard. They work extremely hard just to, try and give me the easiest shot to see. And, I just talk them kind of through the play. We go over what happened to make a big play. I kind of like to let them know and really let them know and hear and be like, that was awesome. Like, whether I'm screaming at the top of my lungs in a positive or bad way, at the end of the day, I always reel it in and I always go after we score a goal or they score a goal. I go, hey, just keep playing. Next
Mm,
one, next one. It's
mm.
got to be the next play mentality, just like it's the next save mentality. So obviously, you want to get the one you're at, but you got to be focused on just making plays and stacking them. And we make that one stop. Let's just keep going. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great that you say that too, because sometimes goalies are like really hard on their teammates, and there's a time and place for that. But like if that's you, you also got to be like not really hard. What's the word? Like encouraging when they make that great play, right? Because if they're just constantly like berating them, then all of a sudden like you're not that teammate that they want to be with. But if on the other side you are like they make a great play and you're the first guy and you're equally as pumped, if not more, for them when they make that play, then they'll start to, I think, listen to you and trust you a little bit more when you do have a little bit of coaching, right?
I agree.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, cool. And then yeah, I mean, anything else from that tournament? I mean, first time in Poland, I imagine. Did you guys get to see any of the country, or just kind of there to play?
Yeah, so we kind of only, believe it or not, we only had really 2 off days, and when we had off days, we were still scouting out and
Yeah.
practicing. But we had some opportunities to go into the city of Wrocław and experience it. And it was a small little city, but it was beautiful. The architecture was incredible. Um, I was blown away. You go to another country, and I was just taking it all in, and just so grateful for where lacrosse has taken me, and the
Yeah.
friendships and memories and places that I never would have been going to or have had if it wasn't for the game. So it was just a blessing for me to, do something where I'm connected with my heritage roots in a different country that I'd never imagined going to before, with some new people who became lifelong friends.
That's great. And then you mentioned, the rules are a little bit different. Does it change how you play goalie at all? Not really.
Not really. There's the clearing rules and some of the other rules that kind of take place, but you
Yeah.
still play goalie, you still bring the energy,
Yeah.
and you still play hard. Doesn't matter what the rules are, you always got to
Right.
bring it. So
Yeah, no shot clock, so you got longer possession. So maybe like that's one thing where like, instead of, a nine, maybe a minute and a half possession, like it could be a good 4 minute possession. And so you got to be
exactly.
more focused a little bit, I imagine.
It's different from the college game, but I'm also used to it because high school we had played with no shot clock.
Right.
Obviously, some tournaments had it, but high school and club there was no shot clock, so you're used to kind of waiting in. But it adds to the game because it's like they could have a 4 minute possession. It's making that saves important, right? So it's just trying to value the ball in the clear game and when the ball's in your stick, making smart decisions
Yeah.
so they don't come back to cost you later on.
Beauty. Beauty. Well, Michael, thank you so much, my man, for doing this podcast. It was awesome to hear your stories. There was one question I was going to ask you that I skipped over. I think I read that you had like transferred high schools. Is that true?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's
What
correct.
what went into that?
So, I spent my whole life in Farmingdale in the public school environment there, and I was going into my freshman year of high school, and Coach Tom Rooney came to my house. He wanted to sit down with me and my parents and talk to me, and there was a decision where this small Catholic school in Oyster Bay, St. Dominic High School. He wanted me to come over where he was coaching at. His sons went there, and he's like, "Listen, you're going to be the starter as a freshman, right? You're going to have the opportunity to get better, play on varsity as a freshman. We're going to play against St. Anthony, Chaminade, Massapequa, all those top teams, and you're going to have the opportunity to play and grow. And I'm going to back you between shore to shore, and I'm going to back you for getting recruited." So I went to shore to shore. I made the jump from igloo to shore to shore. I went to St. Dom's, and we were playing top competition. I remember first tournament playing against Yorktown and all these top teams, and it really just allowed for me to develop my game as a freshman, sophomore, and just get better and see a ton of shots and play for a really good coach and team.
Mm,
And it was one of the best decisions I ever did because I wanted to play varsity as a freshman to get that experience and get better and see faster shots. And I made the jump from St. Dom's after my junior year there because Coach Rooney would be leaving St. Dom's, and he was kind of the big reason why I went there. And Farmingdale, my hometown, which I hadn't been for in 3 years, I always remained cool and friends with everyone there. But I decided to go back to my hometown where my brothers both went to school. I had a brother in the high school there, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made. Right? I think the St. Dom's thing was incredible, and the Farmingdale thing was incredible. We came back. We had an incredible senior year. We won the Long Island Championship for the first time in 2011 since 2011, and I had one of the an incredible game, and my teammates had my back, and I was able to have theirs, thankfully, and we made it to the state championship. Lost, but that Farmingdale season was an incredible year, and we helped the program get back on track from years of not making or winning a championship to winning a championship. So being able to be a part of both programs and come back my senior year with all my best friends. So I started out playing PL lacrosse with in third grade when I started goalie was an incredible experience, and I'll never forget that year because it was very special.
Awesome, my man. Well, thank you for sharing that as well. It sounds like a awesome opportunity. And yeah, cool. Did we hit everything? I feel like we hit on everything, but did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it all.
All right. What about the stick? Do you string your sticks?
So, I go to String It Up in Huntington. They do a great job.
Oh yeah.
So I don't string my sticks. At Syracuse, we got Tucker Kellogg. He strings a lot of the guys' sticks up on the team. I know locally a lot of people like Mr. Wonderful over here,
Yeah.
who also does a great job. But no, I've been going to String It Up for years, ever since I was in middle and elementary school, and they do a great job. I kind of do well, since we're a gate school at Syracuse, I use the gate goalie head, and I'm sure you've
Oh,
seen the new one that looks a little crazy. They just came out with that, but I haven't used that model yet. I'm using the older model, and I have the gate carbon shaft, and I just do a nylon and two across. Sometimes I'll add a U. It just kind of depends the current mood or whatever I'm feeling, but it's been two across mainly. And I use East Coast Dyes Hero Mesh, the old school Hero Mesh, whenever I could get my hands on it. It's my favorite mesh of all time. I've been using it since I was a younger guy, and
nice.
yeah, it throws great.
Yeah, I have to play. I did see the gate, that new gate head. It looks really, really interesting.
Mhm.
So I want to play around with that one. What do you use for the goalie gloves? Does Gate have goalie gloves?
Yes, so Gate has goalie gloves. Our trainers do a great job. They put a little bit of extra protection on those gloves for the goalies, so we get like a little bit of the thumb
Extra
protection. They
thumb.
put a
Yeah.
certain type of plastic on it. Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, like I said, Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show, and awesome to hear your story, and wish you tons of luck in the upcoming season. And if you had to leave the goalies out there with a final piece of advice, what would that be?
I would just say trust the process, right? Work hard. Everything happens for a reason. You know, just be a great person, be a great teammate, be coachable, right? Just be grateful for every opportunity you get and make the most of it. Um, don't let anyone tell you that you're not good enough. You are good enough. Go prove them wrong. Just go outwork everyone and go chase your dreams because, I was a young kid, maybe like the people watching, and then now I'm playing college lacrosse at a great place, and I've been able to receive a great education and make great friends. So, just follow your dreams and just work hard. That's my piece of advice.
Love it.